So tired. So tired. Why is my laptop just going cuckoo bananas right now? Hello, YouTube. This is Shari with more of Just My Opinion. It's been a long day. I don't know if you can tell. Wash my hair. My hair is so. I don't know what my hair is. My hair is just so thick and so weird. And does lots of crazy things. Just washed it 10 minutes ago, already drying. It used to happen a lot when I was younger. It's not a common experience now. No, pushing my life is like going up that ramp of a roller coaster. It's like shoo, getting close to the top of the cricket. Really, really long day. Visited with my aunt. She drove a great distance, so I figured I'd meet her in the middle. And haven't seen her in ever, ever. Really nice visit. Her and I, we don't exactly jive along the on politics. We really don't. She's still my auntie. And had a really nice conversation. We stopped at a very nice restaurant, ate outside. And if you've ever listened to any of my podcast episodes, just with a comma, my opinion on podcast streaming sites, I'm on almost every one of them now. I will leave a link to one of the sites that I'm commonly downloaded on and people listen to me on. They download the podcast. I'm not going to say it in the live feed because they are not throwing money on me, making it rain. So I'm not going to pimp myself out to make them more money. But I'll leave the link in the comments where to find my episodes. If you've ever listened to the podcast, you know I did a whole slew of them about COVID and being around other people. And now people can, I mean, really, what's the point of taking off your mask to eat, sitting across the table from somebody? As you're talking, you're exchanging aerosol. Long and the short of it is, sat outside, had a really nice lunch with my auntie, and we just chatted about things, about family, this and that. And somehow we got onto the subject of a lot of got onto the subject how the family has a lot of genetic abnormalities, as it were, just not to piss anybody off. And the subject of the spectrum came up on the autism spectrum and how you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who wouldn't qualify to be considered autistic. For me, I call BS on some of the definitions of autism because you could be a daydreamer, just like, oh, you're autistic. You could not focus in class, you're autistic. Well, no, just what you're telling me is boring. So I'm going to go over here and do something else. Or being hyper focused on a task and it's really hard to redirect. Boom, autism, automatic. I'm like, no, I'm just really interested in this show and I'm binge watching. The simple fact that I have my favorite shows on streaming sites, people would be like, oh, autistic. I'm like, no. I give myself over to the play. The play is the thing. And I just power down on power saver mode and let little lights and people talking distract me for a while. Another thing that my auntie and I were talking about as far as autism goes and autism in the family, I have a child, an adult child who is on the spectrum. And we got to talking about parenting methods and what she's experienced as a parent and what I experienced as a parent having a child who's autistic. And it came up in conversation my attitude toward a lot of the professionals that observed and annotated my child's not even development, it was more of a snapshot. It's like, "Yeah, your insurance pays for 6 hours, and after 6 hours" huge sample, right? "We've determined this." Well, what does that mean? "Well, it could mean this, it could mean that. We're just not sure." I'm like, "Okay, buddy, later." Did a lot of that with my son. A lot of, like, "Thank you, go away, don't come back, take a flying leap. I don't agree with that assessment. You are just telling me not to put in the work." And the work having an autistic child is very having a child who's autistic or on the spectrum, in my experience, maybe not yours, in my experience with my child was it was like putting an Etch-a-Sketch to bed every night with all of the things that we had done and written here and all over the place, and was like, "Okay, this is, what worked and this is what doesn't work." You wake up in the morning to wake up your child, and the Etch-a-Sketch is blank. A lot of days, a lot of weeks, a lot of months felt like no progress. I felt like, "Yeah, there's gotta be another way. How do I get through to my child?" And all these professionals, people with degrees that charge out butt for their time, well, their way of handling it was, "Well, here's a set of keys, and this is your son's lock, and if none of these keys work, your son's lock is broken." Again, that notion fought a lot of teachers, counselors, parents of students in my child's school over that notion that, "Well, we've tried what we have. What else can we do?" And this came up in the conversation with my aunt. The solution is when you have a child, just my opinion, when you have a child who is autistic, they have a lock. It can be a keyed lock, it can be a combination lock. And when somebody comes up to you and says, "None of our keys work, there's nothing we can do," that's when, as a parent, which I did repeatedly, I was that parent that, "Oh gosh, here she comes. Oh, don't look. Oh, hi." I was that parent with my son. And when I found out that there are all these people with keys that we can't reach your son, then I set out for somebody who can make a key just for him. I mean, that truly is the key to autism, in my experience and in my opinion, that it is not the lock that is broken. It is you have to make a special key. A lot of these therapists, if you have a child who's autistic or if you know someone who's autistic, a lot of these therapists, they claim to say, "Okay, we're gonna have this individual plan, and we're gonna go towards that plan. This is what we're going to do for this individual, for this child, for this little boy, for this little girl, and it's gonna be set for the end." No, 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 no. In my experience, that is no. My aunt even brought this up. There is not a skeleton key for autism. Long and the short of it, There is not one size fits all. There is not a everybody is a size 7. And if you're not a size 7, well, there's something wrong with you. A lot of professionals that come, they didn't come out and say it. They have said, well, this is the extent of my experience, however long their experience was. And none of my, even my skeleton key doesn't open up your child's lock. Then that's the time to find somebody who can help you craft a, a key. Or if your child's autism is unlocked through a combination of numbers or numbers and letters or numbers, letters, and symbols. Too many people too often give up on a child. And it's really hard. I know from personal experience, both my children are grown and gone. And the younger one will be 30 this year. I know I look great, don't I? Will be 30 this year. And all the things that my child has accomplished that I was told would never happen, my child would never speak, my child would be institutionalized, my child would never, I guess, interface, they would never be able to communicate in any meaningful way with others. It was basically at 4 or 5 years old, I was told to give up. Just give up. And when anybody tells you to give up on your child, that's when you double down. That's what I did. Double down. Again, there is no skeleton key for autism. There is no one size, one plan, one attitude fits all. A lot of people ask me, how can you do this? How can you, where do you find the strength for it? Don't you get tired? You know, and thinking about those questions makes me realize what I was really being asked. It's like, well, why do you keep fighting? Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep struggling with, why do you keep working with your child to get, to learn numbers and letters and to do simple tasks like simply folding a towel took 2 years and they were 10. Keep getting asked, even to this day, how did you do it? How did you do it? Did it have something, they ask, well, is it because you have siblings, brothers and sisters who are special needs or are disabled or locked away in institutions? In fact, a lot of people even ask me, why are you so normal? I'm like, oh, I am. Like parents and people to this day ask me, how did you do that? How did you do all of this? How did you like I didn't do it. I didn't do anything except, I mean, granted, granted, dealing with the autism of my child, like kind of switching out that puzzle and opening the gates of hell, looking for the right combination. I was looking for the combination and the correct key, a custom made. Think of autism. A lot of, autistic parents with autistic children and autistic adults may disagree with me. Again, just my opinion. Autism is a lot like, in my experience, like the radio frequency band. You have ultra high frequency, you have very high frequency, you have high frequency signals. and the different megahertz, gigahertz, and kilohertz. And imagine somebody who's autistic living in the between a frequency. There, it's almost like a ghost frequency. And it's not a matter of the fact that, well, we don't recognize it, so it doesn't exist. It's more of you have to go look for it. You have to go look for it, discover it, get on their frequency, think like they do, be like them, send out a signal to your child that they receive. And they're like, oh, I get it. Where are you? Okay. So communicating back and forth. It's a matter of just tuning into your child and being there for their needs. And going back to what parents and other people were asking me then and asking me now, how did you do it? What they're really asking me, why weren't you selfish to stop trying? And I think the meaning of those questions answers what they were asking me. They were underneath everything they were asking, why weren't you selfish enough to stop trying? And the opposite of that gives them the answer. Because this is my child, my legacy, my gift from God lent to me. The first gift from God was my life. The second gift from God was my children. When I meet my creator, I have to explain how I how I appreciated, what did I do to appreciate these 2 gifts? And I'm not gonna look my creator in the eye and say, "I was too selfish to change, to be the parent that my child needed." And trust me, every step of the way was like being covered in razor cuts and swimming in lemonade, every step of the way. But once you let go of your ego, once you let go of everything that you've learned and think you know, that's when it becomes easier. You I didn't learn anything by myself. Is there any research or really any experience from having siblings with disabilities? It was my son it was my son who taught me. He taught me. He taught me what he needed. He explained to me through his words, through his actions, positive and negative, and it's been this year will be 30 years of lessons, and I'm still learning. He teaches me so much. Oh, by the way, all those therapists have said that he would never be able to do things, he'd never be in society. Oh, you. Everything they said never came to pass because I never let up. He as long as he continued to teach me what I needed to know about him, and it changed all the time. As long as I listened and again let go of my ego, let go of everything that I know, let go of my selfishness, let go of my time, you realize you get back so much more. Your children teach you so much. Another child, no issues at all, just a brat, lives a very successful life, continue to learn from from that one too. I get to learn about a lot that I thought I knew about myself and about them. The world, is going to hell in a handbasket. I'm only concerned about my 2 children. And yes, that's selfish. That's my time to be selfish when I'm not stopping my selfishness to be there for their needs. So, yeah, remember, there's no one size fits all. There's no panacea, and there is definitely no skeleton key for autism. Oh, and I'd like to end this by making note of a lot of things I've seen on social media. I know people put the little puzzle piece on their timelines or their, you know, pictures that supposed to, have a face, but they put the little puzzle piece in there. And I've noticed a lot of, "Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that." And I just shook my head and I wrote on my social media wall, I go, "For those parents who have autistic children or use their children's autism to get attention, don't." Why did I say that? Because autism isn't about the group. Autism is about the person who lives with it every day. The caregivers can get a break. It's about some days still, you think you have every line on that Etch-a-Sketch filled in and nailed in stone. You wake up the next day, you realize there's some stuff missing. There's gaps again. And it's not something that is you get over, you get through, you learn to live with. And most people with autism have it their whole life. It's not something that you grow out of. I've never seen people grow out of. Again, I don't know everything. This is just my opinion. Autism is not about the caregiver. When you make it about the caregiver, you're completely in my opinion, completely disregarding the fact that you don't live inside that body, that brain, and have to try to function with all this weirdness in the world. And at the same time, as a person with autism, maintaining your perfection in a world that wants to break you down and make you fit in and demand that your lock open with the available keys. Autism is a wonderful kind of exceptionalism, individualism, standing out, standing above, standing beyond the ordinary. I hope one day to repay my creator for my child and explain and try to explain that even though my child met all their social goals, just try to explain that it could have gone faster if there were times when I just kept my ego out of it and sat back and continued to be taught instead of trying to teach. Well, that's my buck 50 on autism. You have a family member or anybody that you love in your inner circle, their individuality should be applauded, admired, and envied. With so many groupings of people nowadays, the individual needs to be even more lauded for how special they really are.